going on, guys? My name is Austin. This is the Bodies in Business podcast. And today we're going to talk about cold exposure and what it can do for you. Cold exposure, or ice baths or cold showers or jumping in a really freezing lake, has become all the rage in the health and wellness arena because guys like Andrew Huberman and like Brian Johnson, all these people have really tried to do deep dives into cold exposure and the benefits of it. And to be honest, I've been doing cold baths since I was a freshman in college, and I thought, man, they're super helpful. They can really make your legs and body recover a lot faster, it felt like. So there's three areas that I'm going to jump into today: the mental resilience and mood benefits of cold exposure, the metabolism benefits of cold exposure, and then the physical performance benefits. Now, the first thing I'll say is there's this, her name's Dr. Susanna Soberg. She has done a lot of research on cold exposure, and she has said that getting at least 11 minutes of cold exposure every week is very helpful for your mental resilience, mood, metabolism, and physical performance. Now, 11 minutes doesn't sound like a long time, but when you're taking in like 2 to 3 minute cold showers, it actually feels like a long time when you're in those 2 to 3 minutes. I actually took a cold shower this morning just to get prepared for this, because some of the mental benefits you get and the alert benefits you get from doing a cold shower in the morning can be super helpful for focus and raising your levels of adrenaline. So I wanted to be super focused for this podcast. So that's kind of why I did it. Now, one thing I will say is when I was first starting out taking cold baths, I just did it because my coaches told me to do it because it would help with recovery. What I've learned is it's not necessarily something that's going to be the biggest game changer when it comes to your overall lifestyle and performance. Now, it can give you a boost of dopamine and adrenaline, and that's really good. You know, there's some benefits to doing that. But what I'll say is just focusing on doing the cold exposure is not going to get you like all the benefits of eating a healthy diet or working out or getting really good sleep. It can definitely contribute to helping with those. But I wanted to say that before we do this, entire podcast, is because a lot of people are like, oh man, I'm going to do cold baths and it's going to fix everything. It's like, no, it's a good supplement. It's a very good supplement to a wellness regimen. And honestly, I like to dabble in the cold and the sauna, just to get, honestly, it's from recovery more for me. But I think I might start using it more for the dopaminergic responses and also adrenaline responses in the morning from a cold shower standpoint. Because whenever I do a deep dive into these topics, it makes me realize, oh, I can definitely use this to increase my focus and productivity. So let's go into the mental resilience and mood effects of cold exposure first. And studies have been shown that deliberate cold exposure triggers a massive and long-lasting release of catecholamines, including 250% increase in dopamine and a 530% increase in norepinephrine. And dopamine gets you moving, norepinephrine keeps you focused, and adrenaline gets you ready to take action. So that's what catecholamines are. I wanted to know what those are before I talked about it. But essentially, the dopamine response that you get is your body basically trying to make yourself feel good and say like, okay, you need to move around. You need to do something to get warm again. All right. You're freezing, and this is a survival response that your body has whenever you're so cold that you're like, okay, it's danger mode. We need to move. We need to get active. We need to do something to basically keep us warm and keep us alive. So that's the dopamine response. And then also the adrenaline says, okay, I am super alert right now. I can't stay in here forever. And my heart rate goes up. Everything starts to increase when it comes to blood pressure, blood flow, all these things. And it's like, all right, I need to go. So that is it's almost like taking a cup of coffee, right? Whenever that caffeine hits your system, you are more focused, more alert, and you're ready to go. So this is honestly a good thing you could do in the morning. I used to do it in the morning, like almost every morning. And I got away from doing that. You get in these habits. What I'll say is you get in habits that you just start doing something, you just keep doing it. And that's a good way to, live a life where if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I think I'll start doing this maybe like probably 3 times per week. And on the days that I don't have to wake up at 5:20. I can do my cold showers here, give me a little boost and wake me up a little bit more. But from a mood and resilience standpoint, part of it is doing something that sucks and you don't want to do. Honestly, that is part of life. And when you can do that, you put yourself in a state of mind where you can say, I know this is going to suck and I know this is not going to be fun, but I'm going to do it. So I'm going to build up that resilience to doing things I don't like to do, but I'm still going to do it. And I think that's part of it, is like getting in a cold shower first thing in the morning is not the most fun thing to do. But there's something about it that you're like, okay, I conquered. Joe Rogan calls it being your inner bitch. And conquering that is honestly part of living a life where you can do the things you want to do and also doing things you don't want to do sometimes. And doing it and then realizing, oh man, this is actually very beneficial when it comes to my mood over the next couple hours, because your dopamine levels are going to be a little higher. And then also from a focus standpoint, because you have that adrenaline pumping through your veins and your blood is actually moving a little more too. So those things I think are very important when it comes to cold exposure. Is do it in the morning, because you're going to actually get a lot of focus. Your body's going to feel a little more warm. You're going to have a little more juices going through your body, and that'd be a good time to do it. Now, from a metabolism standpoint, this is very interesting because there's this fat in your body, and you have white fat and you have brown fat. And you kind of need to know the difference, because white fat is your primary energy storage in your body. It stores excess calories and it makes up most of your fat in your body. All right. It's located around your belly, your hips, and your thighs. Your brown fat, on the other hand, is packed with mitochondria, and it burns calories to generate heat. And it's activated when you get in cold exposure. It's found in your neck, your upper back, and around your shoulders. So the more brown fat you have, the higher calorie burn and better metabolic health. So that's one thing that cold exposure actually does. It actually creates more brown fat in your body, and that brown fat burns more calories throughout the day. So that's kind of cool. And I think that's something, is if you're trying to get a little more lean, or if you want to help with your fat burning process throughout the day, a cold shower in the morning actually activates that brown fat, and then you start burning more calories in the morning time and throughout the day without actually even having to go work out, which is kind of cool. I think that's something that is super beneficial when you want to lean out a little bit or lose a little weight. And so taking a cold shower can be something where you're creating more brown fat and you're burning more calories. And so it's a good way to increase your metabolism. It's not something where you're like, oh, I can just take cold showers and lose weight. It's just like I said, a supplemental thing you can do to maybe activate some more fat burning that you wouldn't get if you were just going about your normal day. The cold exposure in the morning kind of boosts that brown fat. So I think that's pretty cool. All right. And then from a physical performance standpoint, so we talked about mood and resilience, we talked about metabolism, and now we're going to talk about physical performance. It says cold water immersion is an excellent tool for reducing inflammation and muscle soreness after high intensity or endurance exercises. However, if your primary goal is muscle hypertrophy and strength, you should avoid cold immersion at least 4 hours after your workout, as it is a short circuit the stress needed for those specific gains. So that is something that I think I didn't know when I was in college, and then also when I was training super hard for rugby, was I didn't realize, and I didn't have this information, that I shouldn't take a cold bath right after I did like a tough strength training workout. And so I think that's something to be aware of, is if you're trying to recover really, really fast from an endurance sport, like taking a cold bath after a long race or something like that is beneficial. But if you just worked out really hard in the weight room and you're trying to build muscle, doing a cold bath right after that workout is not as beneficial as it would be 4 hours after, because you want that blood flow, you want all that stuff. You want stuff traveling through your body to build that muscle. And so that's something to be aware of, is whenever maybe you have like a long football game or a long soccer game or something that is heavy on the endurance, doing a cold bath after can be beneficial. And then also doing a cold bath or even a hot cold contrast the next day can be super beneficial as well from a recovery standpoint. So that's something to remember. I honestly think that doing like a cold bath the day after you do a tough workout is also beneficial, because it sparks that blood flow, gets everything moving again. And blood flow is really, really good for recovery. So that's one of the biggest things why you want to do a cold bath maybe the next day in the morning time, or a cold shower. So that's it, guys. I won't go into anything too much more. I just think it's super helpful to understand why you would want to do a cold shower. I've seen so many people buy the cold baths, home cold baths and stuff. And I think a cold shower probably is something you can start off with. You don't need to buy a cold bath in order to get the benefits. You can take a cold shower. And Huberman and Soberg say that you want it to be cold enough to where you want to be like, I want to get out of here. Like, I want to get out. You don't want it to be so cold that you're like going to damage your body, and you don't want to stay in the water too long because there will be damaging effects if you stay in too long. So she said 11 minutes throughout the week, probably 1 to 2 minute sessions or 2 to 3 minute sessions throughout the week, and you get that 11 minutes. And so you can get those benefits. That's it, guys. Hopefully that's helpful. I know that I will start using more cold exposure in the morning to really up my focus and maybe get some brown fat going more. Get rid of some of this this winter weight that I put on. But anyways, guys, hopefully that's helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out and get after it.